Welcome to Viseland. Today we got a great, exciting episode because you know what happened this past week? What happened this past week, Mikey?
The NBA draft lottery.
Yes, the thing that should have happened 3 months ago, we sort of know a little bit more about now. The teams are all in place. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily know when the draft date is. I know that's on the table right now because they're trying to move next season back a little bit. That's kind of like the word on the street. But basically, sometime in like the middle of October, we're actually going to finally have an NBA draft, and these guys are going to go to teams, and we could stop talking about this draft class that is not the most exciting of all time. But there's some interesting, things in this draft, like as there is in any draft. So what we're going to be doing this week is we're going to be just going through the lottery and just Mikey's going to give us his mock draft of what is going to be happening. So let's start with the number one pick. You get the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
I said Wolves.
Wolves.
I said Wolves a little bit more.
Timberwolves.
Wolves.
Team Wolf too.
He would have been a good player, honestly, Team Wolf.
Team Wolf would probably be among the top picks in this draft.
Yeah.
That's for sure. What I will say is we still don't know exactly. So the draft is supposed to be October 16th. We're still not exactly sure. The Minnesota Timberwolves did move up to the number one selection. They were pretty high anyway. But so we're doing this mock draft by where we think teams are going to take players. So this is going to be like the first in a few series I'm sure we'll do of mock drafts. It's good that Viseland is finally doing draft stuff, by the way, too. And what I will say is these are who right now we're predicting. We're trying to get into the minds of the general managers and the decision makers of what might go down during the draft. This is not necessarily our opinions, but we'll throw in our opinions here and there.
Totally. And there's a lot that can change between now and then, too, because, who knows what the workout situation is going to be, and who knows who's stayed up on, some of the European guys got to finish out their seasons, whereas, some of the college guys haven't played really, competitive high-level games since,
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the players we're listing, it's been forever. And the other thing we're expecting is chaos. And I think this draft is just racked for chaos. This is a trade down and try and get maybe a future asset kind of draft. Minnesota and Golden State both could be in that mode. Minnesota without a pick in 2021, so maybe they try and do something there.
Because that's a draft people want to get in on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, so we'll start with Minnesota and what we think Minnesota is going to do. I think it's between a couple guards. And where I feel that they're probably leaning is going with Anthony Edwards. And he's a 6'5" guard out of Georgia. He is built like a football player. He basically has linebacker size, fantastic athleticism, has some wonderful high-level scoring moments, can score in a variety of ways, and is has a lot of potential as a pull-up shooter, has a lot of off-ball potential, really good cutter. Didn't have necessarily the most consistent freshman season.
Well, not everyone does. I mean, a lot of guys, even the
no,
guys.
This is beyond that. So yeah, yes, obviously, any player you're going to have some concern, and with the draft, you're just trying to kind of narrow down as many variables as possible. It's we're confident this guy is going to be this, this, and this. Anthony Edwards.
I think we're having a little technical difficulty here. I think it just froze up on his screen. Give it just 1 second. I'm not sure what's going on with the internet.
Where you could see him being a very effective player. The other thing, I'm like a wingspan truther basically, and the last time he was measured at USA Basketball was in 2017. at the October minicamp, and he measured at 6'2" without shoes and a 6'9" wingspan. My feeling is now, since he's grown a couple inches, it's probably even longer. So I think that his physical attributes are maybe more impressive than what is listed in the mainstream. I'm guessing his wingspan. I'm pretty sure DX had listed, or ESPN guys had listed it at 7 feet. I think it's somewhere in the 6'11" range, I'm guessing. But yeah, long, and then wasn't necessarily like the best finisher around the basket and has some issues there. But still, you could see him getting better. And I think he'll be a much better shooter with a little bit more spacing also. He's a guy that you could maybe see more playing next to D'Angelo Russell than a LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, like that's kind of – I don't feel like D'Angelo and Lonzo never was a thing, just putting that.
Yeah, that just straight up didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because of D'Angelo. I'm guessing some off-court issues might have led to
that. Like they just like that was just not like a thing that people were thinking either. Like it's kind of his own.
No, I think that would have been interesting. I don't know. It would have been interesting to see how that went, because I think Lonzo, at least from like a defensive instincts, and like you could have saw that maybe happening a little bit more, especially with Lonzo not necessarily being the ball handler that LaMelo is. And there are definitely some differences between LaMelo and Lonzo.
No, for sure. But it's like it's too kind of like D'Angelo's kind of like a point guard of sorts.
Yeah, that's what he wants to be.
Yeah, so it's like it's just like that's where the contrast would come in. Like I think getting a shooting guard. Good. You got Karl Anthony Towns. He's usually got on the block. D'Angelo's pushing, kind of pushing, creating that tempo.
And you're kind of zoned into D'Angelo at this point with the extension, and it's going to be tough to get off his contract, and get some good value in return.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and on the same thing with that trade, Golden State's left with Andrew Wiggins' contract.
Yeah.
But it's a hard one. So D'Angelo's going to be in Minnesota for the foreseeable contract till his contract runs out.
Yeah.
So I think that 2 is the way to go. They've obviously been Wiggins. That relationship was kind of soured, and then also just I think they still kind of miss Jimmy Butler.
For sure.
Years ago.
Jimmy Butler, but yeah, having a guy who I guess you're kind of hoping can do some secondary playmaking, but I guess that's where LaMelo might make even more sense, to have a couple guys that are, you are confident with the ball in their hands. Defensively, I think it's going to be tough either way with Ant or with LaMelo. They still have Jarrett Culver. That's a guy that seems to be left out of the equation completely, and you just think he's kind of a wing, and I guess you could play him next to Ant. And with LaMelo's size, you could see him possibly guarding a few different positions, and there's certainly some potential there as a defender. I think the thing that Minnesota would love to do is probably trade down and get a little bit of value off of that.
Well, they pick a little later in the draft too. They're picking 17, so that that's a chance to add kind of like someone who you want to be like a role player. Yeah. The number.
I'm not sure you get burned this year if you trade the first pick. That's the other thing.
I think you're getting
a worthwhile player.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys that are really speaking that, and of course, they could prove us all wrong, but just as of today, it's one of these drafts where it's moving down is not as detrimental. Last year, you had Zion, you had Ja, you wanted to be at the top of the draft.
Yeah, well, Zion, Ja, RJ. You assumed everybody was staying with those 3 guys, even though a lot of people were saying that if you didn't have Zion to trade those picks as well. But, notice that the 4th pick was traded and then traded again. It was, a lot of things happened this year. I'm assuming that if Minnesota doesn't trade their pick, I have to kind of believe that at least one of the top 2 picks is going to get traded, because let's move on to Golden State. Because
Golden State's coming to number 2 with they're in that interesting scenario of just it just happened the chips just kind of fell that way. Clay goes out in the finals last year. Steph goes out super early in the season, and here you are at the top of the lottery on a team that's, still, they lost Kevin Durant, but they still have Steph, Clay, Draymond Green. Like, it's a very good team. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the San Antonio Spurs when they got Tim Duncan, because the Spurs were like a good playoff team. And then the one year David Robinson gets hurt right at the beginning of the year. They suck. Then they get the first pick. And it's Tim Duncan.
I wish there was a better analogy because they're not getting Tim Duncan.
No, they're not getting Tim Duncan, but it's like a good team that already gets.
I know it gets
to add somebody pretty good, because usually it's again, you're a team like Golden State, you're never picking past 28, or before 28. Yeah. You're always picking.
Now now they are, and they need to replace a pretty big burden. It's not even just losing KD; it's the fact they lost Andre Iguodala as well.
Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and
they can use some depth. That's the one thing I feel they definitely can use, and it just so happens that I'm not sure either.
Sorry, it looks like my internet is.
If you're looking at Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball to about that, you there?
Yeah, sorry, my internet gave it a quick little freeze. I apologize for that, guys. But yeah, back to what we were saying, they need to replace a lot of energy guys' depth, and they need to bring somebody special for that second unit.
Yeah.
And so if they do keep the pick, or even if they trade out, I still think the likely pick is.
Well, I'm guessing you're saying James Wiseman. The guy I gave him was LaMelo.
Yeah, I think it's LaMelo as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the rumor around Golden State is that they're not that interested in LaMelo, and maybe that's just to kind of push him off. I don't know. I don't think that would be the case. But, yeah, it seems like most people in Golden State think it's going to be James Wiseman. I'm giving them LaMelo Ball and just assuming that they trade the pick and try and get something out of it later. And two teams that I think have a few assets, or at least will try to maybe move up and get LaMelo because they would value that kind of thing. Well, one, I'm thinking if LaMelo goes one, or if LaMelo goes one and Ant goes two, I think Atlanta might be interested. And I'm guessing Atlanta probably values Anthony Edwards quite a bit. And maybe likes him a bit more than some of the wing assets that they currently have, or maybe even trade John Collins if they're not sure about paying him.
Yeah.
And New York, obviously. New York was the team that everybody had assumed would move up the lottery. If the draft was really rigged, New York would have moved up the lottery this year.
Of course.
To get
obviously, LeVar struck out in Los Angeles, but maybe New York would have brought him better fortune.
Well, luckily, hey, if you read Kristen Peak or listen to her, she's saying LeVar is kind of staying out of it. So
good. It's about time. It's about time. But no,
I still feel like LaMelo would be an interesting fit in Golden State, and just having a player like that who is an amazing passer, has the ability to kind of run the ball up the floor and see shooters before anybody else can, and
he's 6'8".
with that kind of spacing.
He's a big guy. He's not the kid that he was when he first came on the scene, and you're like,
for sure,
this kid's 5'2".
Well, he was so young for class too. That's the cool thing. I guess the thing where you see a little bit more potential with Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball is them being young for class. But yeah, what LaMelo did at Illawarra was, I feel, pretty impressive. He averaged 17, 7.6, and 6.8. His assist to turnover ratio is 2.7 to 1, even 1.6 steals. He didn't shoot well. That's for sure. That's an issue. And
but he likes
shot 72% from the line.
But he likes to shoot, so he's got a passion for
definitely
it.
Does.
Let's keep chucking him up.
So that's honestly that's a thing that you probably take that as a positive, even with him once shooting. Shot selection again is an issue with him.
Yeah, it could.
But
he's never had NBA coaching and analytics and breakdown, and someone being like, hey,
yeah, well, that's also possible, but it seems to struggle a little bit getting into the paint. You want him to get the football body of his father eventually. You think, like, if those kids looked like their dad, LiAngelo kind of does. But yeah, if Lonzo and LaMelo had, like, a little bit more strength to them, but it seems like it's something he can build. And shooting is something that I think can improve, and having the confidence to at least take those shots. You saw how much Lonzo, before the bubble, got better at shooting this year.
And when that was Lonzo's big knock coming in, was like the way he shot, and like he's kind of changed that.
Yeah, and LaMelo has those same issues, and like the kind of flailing form, but he's not necessarily reaching the top shelf doing the Thriller dance like Lonzo, in the words of Kenan Thompson's LeVar Ball. But yeah, he's I don't know, like Golden State could go in a few different directions here. We're thinking trade, and we're thinking LaMelo might be the guy, but the other person I think they look at is James Wiseman. And they, even when they were good and everything, and when they would have those late first round picks, they were always kind of searching for their next center.
Yeah,
and
well, of course,
or like trying to trade for like a second rounder and get Jordan Bell. The upside of James Wiseman, I guess, is they believe he could be like a center that they don't really have. You worry about him playing at the end of the game defensively. You worry about how much he'll actually see the ball and how much he'll affect offense. You just hope he's a really good rebounder and a rim protector. But yeah, there are certainly some issues there. But and that is why we'll have
State. Sometimes they're fine playing Draymond. Like they
absolutely like yeah, that
really changes things up too, and it's like to fit in at that pace with them. But yeah, so let's number 2 pick.
Moving on to Charlotte. Yeah,
moving on to Charlotte. So, they have the 3rd pick. You look at their roster.
That's where we think. Yeah, that's where we think it's going to be James Wiseman.
Yeah,
when you look at their roster, they are definitely. They seem to be in the line to get that new center, and I would be a pretty interesting look here. I just you don't know about. I think Wiseman has a pretty high floor, and will at least be like a decent player there, but you just are not sure about him reaching that ceiling. And I think with Okongwu, you just have more of a chance of that happening.
Yeah, but I think with Wiseman too, it's one of those things. He's very lucky in this draft too. It's like you look at a lot of the players. There's not really not that 7 being like getting a 7-footer is like the end all be all of the NBA draft like it used to be 30, 40 years ago. But like you look at him, he's 7'1", and everyone else is kind of in that 6'9", 6'10" window, that are kind of power forwards more than like center.
I feel the major thing though, and like this is obviously the upside play for Wiseman, is to really to affect that, you need to be a really good offensive player. And I'm not sure Wiseman's there. Like you need to be able to take advantage of that size mismatch that I'm not sure Wiseman necessarily does on a consistent basis.
And
especially with him going back to that turnaround jump shot that Patrick Ewing was infuriating people with back in the mid-90s,
Maybe the Knicks trade up. They want to relive that memory. But you saw him in his last college game.
I did.
At Fisk, because the season ended very prematurely because of the whole amateurism being stupid thing. Yeah, like what were your he was playing against Oregon Ducks, not the strongest front court.
Well, if you want me to go back and relive that game, James Wiseman gets in immediate early foul trouble. And limited factor in the first half, comes into the second half, and he does some good things and, get some lobs, get some baskets or some scores close to the basket. There were just a few things that kind of stayed in my head. And one was the going to the pull-up shot when Peyton Pritchard was guarding him, which seemed kind of crazy and very instinctual for him. And the other was like defense in space, and also like just reaction speed on defense being pretty slow. Still very impressive. Like, he runs the floor so well. I think he would have had a good freshman year, and probably if he wouldn't have maintained like a top 3 spot, I'm guessing he still would be top 10. And if in a draft this week where like there aren't going to be like 25 high level players in this draft.
No,
like,
sure.
Like there aren't in any draft. He still, I feel like, would be a good top 10 to top 15 play. I'm just not sure about having him this high. And, you know, the concerns are on both ends of the floor, quite frankly. He hasn't shown it enough. And then his pre-college sample, like, he didn't really kill the EYBL. He shot pretty poorly in the EYBL, and he would settle for those jump shots. And you just wonder if that's a thing where he was turning it around. In college, he at least seemed to show some signs of doing that. And Oregon was unfortunately the only like high-level team that he played. And he still finished with 14 and 12. But it wasn't necessarily like a, you know, dominant performance. And a lot of that had to do with the foul trouble. But again, like the signs that I pointed out. But if he's available at 3, are Charlotte probably going to take him? I still think so. It's need, and then I think it's presumed value. It's not necessarily value, but it's presumed value.
I think in this draft, it's kind of like you take what you can. You're taking what you can. It's not, you know, there's not a lot of high, you know, there's not a lot of Bentleys out there.
Yeah.
You just kind of gotta like, who's the best available, and let's kind of.
I'm guessing that it, like in most teams, kind of like first tier of this draft, like Wiseman could still be there.
Yeah.
And
he's had that buzz for, you know, a very, very long time.
Yeah. And then Onyeka would be another guy if you're like strictly going for need and you feel he's better than Wiseman, then definitely take him. But I think it's too high to take him there. I think the ideal scenario for Charlotte is likely like if Golden State takes James Wiseman or somebody trades up to get James Wiseman, which I don't know if that's going to be in the cards, but hoping that LaMelo falls to 3.
Yeah.
And then maybe Anthony Edwards. But yeah, they just need like a little bit of star power there.
They need someone, like to push.
As nice as Devontae Graham was, and I think Devontae Graham and LaMelo could play together for sure. They still have Terry Rozier, but yeah, like I think they would make that work. You just want star power. And I just think LaMelo is kind of like the guy to bring a little bit of that and maybe be your primary initiator, which is just a huge thing to get on your team.
So number 4.
Moving on. So yeah, we think so far the draft is Anthony Edwards to Minnesota, LaMelo Ball to Golden State, likely being shipped somewhere else, and James Wiseman to Charlotte. Those seem to be the top 3.
Well, that's going to be the top 3 in whatever order.
Likely. Yeah. Not even 100%. This is going to be a draft where I think we'll be surprised on draft night, and it's going to be pretty unpredictable, like even beforehand. I guess last year you figured out like the top 4 picks, and then Garland, and it got a little hazy after that. But at 4 we have the Chicago Bulls moved up a few spots, and as much as you think that they might be interested in like a guard or hoping like LaMelo or Ant slips, they have Kobe, they have Zach LaVine. They seem like they want to give that a run. They have Lauri Markkanen, they have Wendell Carter Jr. You're assuming those are the other spots. There are a few wings here that I think you look at, and the guy who seems to be slide there most often, and the person that we have in our Viseland mock draft 1.0 trademark is Denny Avdija from Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And Denny is a guy who you might even want to play him more at the 4, but certainly has potential to, at least make some plays as your small forward. Has defensive instincts. He is just I think somebody that Chicago could be interested in because of fit, and then also
because I think you have Kobe White's a pretty decent scoring point guard. He has that potential. Zach LaVine obviously likes to he has some pretty big games. I think we saw him when he came to Portland last year. That was a pretty
it's
high.
Just about winning games.
Obviously that's been his problem, but I think you kind of need someone to drive in, kick back out to. That's kind of like a lot of how the NBA is right now. So you need those guys that can shoot. And I think, Denny Avdija, he's proven it on an international level. He did really well with Israel and U19s when he was a little younger. And then he's also been playing, on a Maccabi Tel Aviv, at that professional level, at a high professional level. He had, NBA veteran Amari Stoudemire was there. They had Scotty Wilbekin, who's one of the, the top guys right now in that EuroLeague kind of action. Also former Oregon Duck, Tyler Dorsey, maybe, gave him some shooting tips. No, I think it's a good pick for the Bulls. Because I think it kind of gives them a 5, like a starting 5 that they can, hopefully work with for a little while.
Yeah. And then, he has potential to move, if Lowry gets hurt, he can play some minutes at the 4 and give you a really interesting kind of small ball lineup. But so having the power forward size, at least close-ish, and he has shooting potential. That's the thing with him. He shot a little bit better once the Israeli league came back in, and you still have concerns there.
I've seen his workouts. I've liked what I've seen, but everyone but my workout, people would be impressed by, I guess. That's also part of it.
Yeah. If you see him shooting a bunch of jump shots in an empty gym with somebody passing him perfectly to his chest,
in his shooting pocket.
Him. You'd like him to be a pull-up shooter. You'd see a little bit more versatility. And and then also he's had free throw shooting woes, and I think a lot of that is mental, but it could carry on, and it seems to have carried on. But still the fact that he already has this acumen as somebody who's played it at a high level of pro league, in the EuroLeague and in the BSL in Israel, he is someone I just feel Chicago could be confident in. I think Cleveland might give him a long, hard look as well. And I'm guessing my range for Denny is 4 to 8. And it's looking like the 4 may be the spot. So I think Chicago, like we said, maybe they just see a bit higher offensive ceiling with Denny.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, but I think that Chicago, it seems to be they're looking at Denny at 4, and it seems like the character and work ethic and just his professionalism from his time playing at a high level of basketball, those could be winning attributes for him getting picked as high as 4.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a decent fit to try for Chicago, and he's within that range. So he's been projected, as a very high pick for a very long time. So it's hard to see him slipping too much, because he hasn't really done anything to prove that he doesn't sort of deserve to be in that top, especially in this class.
Yeah. You just you have a few concerns about if the shooting isn't working, and I would say athleticism concerns are probably a bit overblown, but he's not the most athletic guy. He certainly isn't the unfortunate comparison that he gets thrown to him is Luka Doncic, and he's just not that level of handler or ability to see the floor, and didn't really play a great deal on ball in Israel. So
I also think we're at a point in society where nobody gets the Luka Doncic comparison. don't do that. Like Luka, Giannis, like don't.
Even though Cade Cunningham is getting it next year, but
it's a high, it's a very, very high bar that's going to be unattainable for
I know
99% of players.
Yeah, it's looking like that.
So I think that needs to end. But yeah, so we're moving on.
So Viseland, what Viseland's doing is we're not comparing anybody. So we're just giving roles and we're giving draft picks.
Roles and fit comparisons are kind of like those run the gamut, and bless you if you do it. But it's kind of like, especially like people want to throw out a lot of names like, oh, he's like maybe like they have one thing in common.
Yeah.
Like they both.
And if you're going to use comparisons, then go on Wizzy and use his draft tool, because that'll at least give you like a baseline for some guys to go through. But yeah,
it's like they're from they're sort of from overseas, so they must be similar to each other because they. Yeah.
At least use some statistics or some like physical comparisons, something like that. But if you go follow Wizzy on Twitter and use his draft tool, because it's fun, and then it'll at least give you some ideas.
But so we move. We're staying in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland's picking number 5. This team is sort of been obviously gutted by the loss of LeBron.
And it will be. Like, I think it's going to continue to be as well.
Like LeBron, Kyrie, and then obviously Kevin Love, as much as we watched him since high school.
He wants out. He wants out.
He wants out, and he's never really been one to play an 82-game season ever.
Sure.
He's always had, some injury things. They make the move. They get Andre Drummond. What that looks like in the long term, again, probably just a stopping point. They drafted Garland super high. So what are your feelings for number 5 Cleveland Cavaliers?
I think that Cleveland could go in a number of different directions here, first off.
Well, because, almost everything's open.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing that you just kind of wonder is if they would choose a guard, because they have decided, it seems at least for now backcourt, and you could move one to the bench, but you have Darius Garland, you have Colin Sexton that they took with top 10 picks the last couple of years. They have Kevin Porter Jr., who I think it also plays a role in their future as well.
No, they got a great value on him.
After having a really promising rookie season. I think that they may go with a player who rose throughout the year in college, or rose early in college, we'll just put it that way, and then became the college player of the year, playing very close to them, Obi Toppin. And that's a scary prospect for Cleveland. I won't lie. That's a pretty scary prospect.
Didn't he win the Naismith Award? He got player of the year.
Yes,
player of the year. So
he did. He's also senior aged.
Yeah, he's 22 and a half right now.
Yeah. So he's senior aged as a sophomore, so it makes him look younger, but he's really going to be, I think, by far the oldest player taken in the lottery. He is someone who was spectacular on offense, and I think will even projects to being a good offensive player in the NBA because of all of the aspects that he brings. Like he was great, like on the cut. He was great as a spot up shooter. He was great in transition. He's a really good vertical athlete, but you worry about his lateral ability, and defensively there are some definite issues there. And he's not necessarily long enough to be a center, which is who you would kind of hope he would guard.
Yeah.
Like what he basically was in college, which is, I think, another one of the reasons why he was able to kind of dominate there as well. But he's exciting. You just kind of wonder if he's going to be able to play both sides, and how much that will attribute to winning after a while if he's not able to be a viable defensive NBA player.
Or just how he finds himself on the Cleveland Cavaliers,
and the roster construction, because they still have. So you have Love, Larry Nance, Tristan Thompson, Andre Drummond. You're assuming they're trying to at least move some of those guys. Andre Drummond's going to be really tough to move, and he has a player option that he's undoubtedly going to take.
Yeah, no, like Kevin wants out Tristan Thompson. Obviously 8 years in the league now. Like he's kind of on the way out. He's been with.
You would think also, yeah, but another contract that might be a little tough to.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of market demand either.
No, yeah. Like that's the thing. Like you have even their guard assets. Like I'm guessing not a ton of demand. Like the one guy who I think might bring demand right now would be Kevin Porter Jr. And yeah, I'm just not even sure about that. So not a lot of assets to really throw like at other teams, and you wonder how much 5 is going to be a pick that teams try to move up for also. And like Cleveland, I think would be really kind of smart to move back and then
move back and
maybe hope to suck for one more year and get a pick next year. But
most likely we'll be talking about them in a similar position next year. Like I have a hard time
almost certainly
in the lottery. I think a lot of dominoes would need to fall a very specific direction. So
I'm just wondering, like I think Cleveland just might be interested in Obi, and I could see that happening and see them at least thinking that, he's this nice possible offensive weapon that has some upside, and, maybe they have a vision for what he will do defensively. So yeah, I feel like Obi's going to go a lot higher than people on draft Twitter feel he deserves to go. But he is like almost certainly going to be a top 10 pick. Like he had a good season.
Yeah,
there's potential to shoot, and there's a lot of offensive potential there.
Always worth it with like, especially if you're Cleveland. I mean, they don't have too like. I mean, they're going to lose, so they don't have too much to lose on the pick anyway. So it's not like they're going to be back in the lottery next year. So hopefully that works out for them. So Obi Toppin, 5 to Cleveland. Moving on, Atlanta. You got Trae Young. Super exciting. What direction are we going to go in for Atlanta with this number 6 pick? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I'm thinking they just go with another, like, they trade for Clint Capella, so they have their center.
Yeah.
They have John Collins as well, who I feel they're pretty high on, and DeAndre Hunter, I think, is going to play quite a few minutes at power forward. Like if they go with small ball, they will probably have like Collins at 5 and Hunter at 4. I'm thinking they may go with another wing, and the guy who I think may spark their interest even more than another possible like higher level shooting and almost equal level defensive wing. I think it could be between Isaac Okoro out of Auburn and Devin Vassell from Florida State. I went with Isaac Okoro in our Viseland mock draft 1.0, and he's a local guy. He went to McEachern High School in Georgia, played for AOT in the EYBL, and he had a really good freshman year at Auburn. It seems like in a lot of mock drafts they have him slipping a little bit, but I still feel like he's going to be a pretty high-level prospect just based on the fact that he has some ability to handle and possibly be a secondary playmaker. He's a really good passer. And then the body, like the strength, the athleticism, and his ability to play defense. Like that's the thing. Like he doesn't necessarily have the greatest measurements. Like he's not crazy long. He's long enough. Like I'm guessing 6'9", or like maybe let's say it's grown an inch, like 6'10" wingspan. Who knows? Somewhere around there. And then I think at most like an 8'5", 8'6" standing reach, which is not extraordinarily high for a wing player. It's adequate, but I think his strength gives him a lot of ability on that defensive end, and then just has really great instincts there as well. The shooting, is another thing where there are some concerns. Like
but Trae Young does that.
Yeah, but you still, Trae Young is spacing in his own right.
Yeah, I think Trae Young is going to take on I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be always up at the top of the league in scoring because he's going to be also scoring and shots attempted.
Yeah.
But obviously, the way.
Yeah, you want as much space as possible.
No, the way the NBA is today,
especially with some of their other wing players, and then if they are playing like a true big man, you don't want to have somebody on your team that basically gets somebody closer to the paint.
Yeah, no.
And that's the worry with Isaac Okoro. And probably not as much a worry with Devin Vassell. But yeah, I'm guessing intangibles and that ability to be that secondary handler. And also I'm thinking some other teams might see him with that strength able to come in and contribute right away. So maybe he's kind of a valuable asset as well as a complementary piece.
Yeah, I think Atlanta's got, in an interesting place. I think they're heading in the right trajectory as a team. They have Cam Reddish as well. So yeah, I think it's worth adding another wing because I think that's really where they need somebody else.
He shot better from the free throw line than I thought. He was at 67.2%. And yeah, I don't know how I didn't remember that off the top of my head, but
it's common. It should be common knowledge for everybody, but
absolutely,
it's okay. But yeah, so moving on from Atlanta, we're going to go on to Detroit, number 7.
And this is a guy who I think we should do a poll and say who would you take if you were the number 1 pick at Minnesota, and have it be Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman, and then and say for other, give an example of why it would be Killian Hayes. So that's the guy that I think, give your reason why it would be Killian Hayes. And Killian Hayes is a guy who I think many have among the top few players in this draft. You just kind of wonder if the rest of the league feels that way. And 7 to Detroit seems to be the popular spot for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes a little bit higher. And I think I have a hard time thinking he goes past the Knicks. Just a lot of talent there. Some definite upside, on both ends of the floor. Became a really good, defender just instinctually and with his strength as well. He is very left-hand dominant, but he's a lefty. So that's another thing in his advantage. Good size for a guard. He's about 6'5", I'm guessing 6'9" or so wingspan. Great passer, so reads the floor really well. And while he hasn't come to fruition where he's shot super efficiently, he shot in the mid 80s from the free throw line for a long time. And that's a really good sign going forward too. So people think that he may have the brightest shooting projection out of all of those players. And just seems to have a bit of an American game. He was born in the United States.
Yeah, well, that's why he gets a little experience, understands American.
Yeah, and then he played mostly in France and played this past year in Germany and was playing up in the Euro Cup and in the BBL and was putting up some great numbers there and looking one of the best players over there already. So he's somebody who Detroit needs a lot of things.
They have Blake in his massive, contract.
And you just want talent.
Yeah.
And with Detroit, you would think they would just go best player available. And Killian is another guy who, I think with Dwayne Casey, I'm assuming he's still there, he'd be interested in playing him right away. And, is a guy who could possibly play next to Derrick Rose for a while once.
That would be a good little guard combo. And again, playing with a former MVP who still has flashes.
Yeah.
of his former self at times. I mean, unfortunately, injuries again have taken a toll there. But like,
and remain bad enough to still compete for a lottery spot next year. And
no, totally. I get
a lot better.
I expect them to also again be back. But you know what would change that if they brought Louis the King up from his two-way contract and just let him huck it a bunch. But
I think that actually will exacerbate and speed up the lottery process.
Speed up their process, but it would make
It'll end the season sooner.
It would make me personally happy. You know, gotta give it up for my products out there. Number 8, our favorite team, everybody's favorite team, really the people's champions of the NBA and the draft lottery. And really,
don't be so hard on the Knicks. I just did.
It's great to see them every year here.
Yeah, I just did a mock draft with a couple Knicks people on Friday. You can check it out. It's a podcast called The Hoop Spy. And yeah, the Knicks are going to do some interesting things. I could see them trying to trade up for LaMelo and really giving a good run at that, just to try and get a little bit of star power in there. But I think they'll have some really good options at 8. And at least, you know, at the 8th spot, you're usually hoping for somebody who can at least be a solid rotation player.
No, and I think
if you get more than that, that's usually a great thing.
They're in the best place they've been in a while. Like, I think they have some, you know, something going. Can they make, like, I mean, you have RJ Barrett, you got, you know, Mitchell Robinson, you know, as a center. Julius Randle, I mean, he's never been a personal favorite of mine, even though
Mitchell Robinson, and then you bring in like 5 guys to play in front of him.
But then like Julius Randle, who was, you know, at my engagement luncheon, like that was very special. He didn't know it was happening, but he was there when I was eating. That was very exciting. Did
he ruin your spacing on that one too? did he move his table right over to your guys?
Yeah, he was pretty in my face at the time. No, I mean, but he's someone like, you know, again, like love him or you know, he's never been my favorite person that I've met ever in my life because I met him on some other occasions as well. But he's someone that you can give the ball to in the post, and he doesn't like to give it back to you. But like but I mean, he has that role in the NBA as like someone who's, I don't know if you call it a finish. Like, what do you call a guy that just gets the ball, doesn't give it back, and then tries to put it in the basket, but doesn't necessarily always do it? Because it's not like a finisher, but he's like a poster. Yeah, there we go. That's probably the closest definition. But like,
why'd you leave that for me?
he takes pride in what he does.
Yeah, you obviously take pride in it as well. But no, Julius, we're sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Julius. We're sorry.
I'm sure you're a nice person under other circumstances, just not all the times I've met you.
Vincent and Julius. That's a terrible Arnold.
So number 8, New York Knicks. Like, what direction do you feel they're going in? Who are they adding to the chaos that is?
I'm just giving them some hope here, and I'm hoping that they want to give themselves hope. And you're hoping that whoever signs with CAA is a pretty decent player. You have Leon Rose and Worldwide West kind of running the show, and we'll see what they do. And if they set them in the right direction, but they can use some help on the wing, like many teams.
Yeah.
And the guy who, if he's available here, I see them probably, I just think it would be a good fit and likely a really good value. If Killian Hayes doesn't fall here, Devin Vassell out of Florida State. And he is a fantastic team defender, has like a little bit of like wiry strength, and certainly can add on to his body, and kind of, you're not necessarily sure he's a secondary ball handler, but you do have RJ there, and hopefully you can get a point guard in like free agency if you make this pick. If there's somebody at 27 who just so happens to be there, then you know that'd be fantastic as well. But yeah, and like you wonder if 8 and 27 can help you move up and maybe get like possibly a good complementary guard. But yeah, if they get Devin Vassell at 8, I think that's a solid pick and a good guy to put next to RJ. Somebody with a lot of defensive potential, a lot of shooting potential. He improved a tremendous amount from his freshman year to his sophomore year as a pull-up shooter, and was already a good spot-up shooter both seasons at Florida State. Is a guy who, at least like when you're looking at roles moving forward, plays a valuable one, and I think would be a good pick for the Knicks here, even though they do desperately want that star power. He's maybe more of a complementary player, but if a few things work out, he could possibly get there as well.
Yeah, and then we'll see what they add in the lottery next year. So it's like all very cyclical for them. Like, yeah, I think that in the NBA today, you can't go wrong with wings.
You definitely can.
I think
it's
worth
usually
to try.
Yeah, it's not like go big or go home anymore.
Yeah,
that's where you're absolutely correct.
The game's changed a lot, but yeah, more. Moving on from the Knicks, because I could talk about my feelings all day. We're going to move on to a team that we just saw in the bubble, and it's funny because when you look at this draft, outside of the lottery with Golden State, it is all Minnesota as well, but outside of that, those non-lottery teams 5 through 9, that is all Eastern Conference teams, and then the remainder of the lottery is all Western Conference teams. So Washington, by the fact that they needed an even number, gets the invite to the bubble. They needed like a miracle of miracles to happen. Bradley Beal's like, I'm good. I'm going to sit this out.
Mm-hmm.
So here they are. They're coming in at number 9. What's sort of feeling on what direction they're going to kind of look to go to? Because again, next year, John Wall, he's back. He's working out. Obviously, again, had a lot of injuries. Bradley Beal still, he's the guy. Troy Brown played pretty well in the bubble, to fit into a role, not like superstardom, but
Well, yeah, you're assuming that John Wall and Bradley Beal come back. That should at least give you a more solid start there. They got a guy who I think showed some promise, but definitely wasn't a draft Twitter favorite, Rui Hachimura with the 9th pick last year. And the guy I think they take at 9 this year, if he slips there, would be Onyeka Okongwu. I just think he makes a lot of sense for this team. I'm assuming they aren't thinking Thomas Bryant's like the center of the future, and then Bryant could be like a backup big anyway. But yeah, Onyeka is somebody who I think from like led all freshmen in box plus minus, was a great defender, somehow did not win Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, which is just mind-boggling to me.
But that's the Pac-12. I mean, we can never take what they do as a conference.
And Zeke Nnaji was fine. It's not that Zeke Nnaji wasn't fine and Isaiah Stewart didn't probably take away some votes. Who knows? But Onyeka, I think, was clearly the most advanced out of those guys. Really good athlete, has great defensive instincts, and then possibly even like the ability to – he's not necessarily like a pure switch big or like, you don't say he guards like 1 through 5, but he at least has more of that potential than anybody else, I believe, in this draft. And yeah, so the athleticism, the instincts, I think the shooting is not terrible. Like he didn't take many, but like, you see some possible projection there. I think he'll be a good finisher around the basket. And then, yeah, like just even as a rim protector, he doesn't have ideal size. Like 6'9", supposed 7'2" wingspan. I have him as a little bit smaller from some measurements from a few years ago. So yeah, size not like ideal center size, but I think it gets by nowadays. Certainly a strong player as well. Seemed to have a great work ethic. Didn't seem to get the ball enough at USC and still was fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a USC, the USC problem. Yeah, I think good potential. It's crazy to think too, because he's went to SC, he's from Chino Hills, and it's like if LaMelo stayed the course.
I'm honestly like I'm surprised that he would be available here, but I think it's possible. And like, and this is also like the other teams having big men, and then the possible like what people bring up is Andre Drummond and Clint Capella were traded for, one would say like not even close to as much value as you would think. And so you just from a value standpoint, but like Onyeka definitely has a chance to be one of the better players in this draft. Like when it's all said and done, and the constant comparison that gets thrown out is Bam Adebayo, who has been just so crucial for Miami being a great, I would say, surprise and great team this year. He took a huge step forward, and a lot of people see some of the similar things in Onyeka. And if he gets there, like, are you going to be able to run your offense through Onyeka? Probably not. But
for now, they still, it's still Bradley Beal's team, and
Bam, like this year, took huge strides there, and like is just this
he's
phenomenal passing big who is great on defense and getting like tons of rebounds. Onyeka could be one of those guys. I don't know about the passing, and that's jury's still out, and it seems like he didn't really have a chance to do much of that at USC, but you don't think that's going to be something that he'll provide moving forward at a huge rate. But at least in terms of like being able to possibly do a little bit more than just be a lob threat and finish around the basket, possibly stretch his game out a little, if not to the three-point line, and then play really good defense. And Washington, I think, can use a guy like that with that attitude. And then I even think like there could be value there as well if, let's say it doesn't completely work out. But I think there's a good chance it could work out pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a team that's got some potential. I mean, hey, they're the only –
certainly at this point, I think Onyeka's a value.
Yeah, and they were the only Eastern Conference team, outside of the playoff picture invited to the bubble.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that just means they were within like 50 games. But like, the potential's, out there. So now we're done with Eastern Conference teams. Now we move to those Western Conference teams that were all in the bubble, fighting for the playoff.
In our time zone.
Yeah, in our time zone, they were fighting for the spots. We're coming in at number 10 with the darlings of the bubble, a team that went 8-0. All they needed was the Blazers to lose, which I would have been very upset if that happened, because obviously Blazers are, with a lot of bias, that's my team.
Game one against the Lakers kept us alive, I guess.
Yeah, it keeps somehow. But yeah, like they played great in the bubble. Devin Booker, obviously, is the dude. Cam Johnson, had a pretty nice little rookie. He showed some signs. You have Ayton as your center. Like, what direction are you feeling they go in?
Oh, I think you broke up there. But yeah, the guy who I have them taking, I'm not sure this is the greatest fit. I just have a feeling he's going to be pretty high in this whole deal. And he could definitely go higher than this. There's certainly like a lot of intrigue, and he looks like a really good complementary piece. You just wonder if you maybe want to go for a bit more upside. But Tyrese Haliburton is the player I have Phoenix taking here. I think in that case you see more like point Devin Booker, and Tyrese is a guy that can play next to him. He is a fantastic passer, and then he's been a really good spot-up shooter, and has like defensive instincts, even if people kind of go at him because his lack of strength. He's just there are a few things where beyond that, like obviously the passing, defensive instincts at least, and the spot-up shooting are big factors, and that's where you think he could be a positive contribution and a really nice like linking piece, if not like your primary initiator, which they at least still have in Ricky Rubio at this point, and then like Devin Booker obviously with the ball in his hands quite a bit. Tyrese gets the line extraordinarily little, like out of draft prospects, like he's in like the bottom percentile. So he barely ever gets to the free throw line, not much of a pull-up shooter, has trouble getting to the rim, like not the worst athlete, but just doesn't have a lot of burst, and he doesn't really get to the basket a lot. He also, he's There are just some. Oh, his ability to handle the ball. Like, yeah, he's not a great, like, doesn't have a deceptive handle, has problems getting by people. So
point guard, those are kind of things
absolutely. But again, like he's a little bit I guess taller than the average point guard.
Yeah,
He's not crazy long, but he was really good this past summer with USA U19, and yeah, you could just see him being a good complementary piece, and certainly has a really good acumen for the game.
When you still have Ricky Rubio, so it's not like,
yeah,
you're giving someone the reins to.
And then like with Point Devin and having like a linking guy, like it could really work.
Yeah.
And then they're looking for character, and it seems like Tyrese would be definitely like in the range there. He was an effective player. Like he had a tough time this year in some circumstances due to, I would say, like the talent around him. But there were just some things that he did where you were, I was really impressed when I got to see him play Oregon State, and then in a bunch of other games this year, and I was live for the Oregon State one. But
I think Phoenix, seemingly it's a good situation to come to, especially as a point guard, that you have some guys you can get the ball to that are gonna get some shots up, get some shots off. You have Ayton, to dump it down to in the post. So moving on, we have San Antonio. It's the first time they haven't made the playoffs since 97-98 when they got Tim Duncan, but obviously now they're 10 picks back. And they're in an interesting, they're still in that post Tim Duncan sort of transitional, Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker, that kind of era. They have LaMarcus, but he's been around. He's 13 years in the, 13, he's going to go on his 14th year in the NBA. For a big guy, that's quite a bit. You have DeMar DeRozan, who is who he is, but I mean, that gets you to a certain level, but like he did with the Raptors, but doesn't get you necessarily beyond. Derek White, has been a nice, pleasant point guard. What are your thoughts on where the Spurs are going to be going with number 11?
Yeah, the depth in this draft definitely seems to be small scoring guards, and it seems like the Spurs have a lot of those already that at least show some promise. As we mentioned last week, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Bryn Forbes, Lonnie Walker, Patty Mills isn't young anymore, Johnson. The guy who I think San Antonio takes here in Viseland Mock Draft 1.0 is Patrick Williams out of Florida State. He's more of that four. You could call him a combo forward. He probably is more of the modern day, like, not even, it's not crazy small ball, but like smallish ball four. He's, I think, about 6'7", 6 foot, like at least I think now you could probably call him 6'8". 6'11" wingspan. He came off the bench quite a bit for Florida State, but showed so many flashes defensively, and then showed like even some ability to run the pick and roll offensively. 84% free throw shooter. Didn't shoot like a crazy high percentage from three, but at least took threes, and showed like a lot of value as somebody who could protect the rim from the weak side even. And he's somebody who I think San Antonio could work with, and maybe if they can do something, he has like these crazy, like his legs are just very, very strange, and he seems to have some trouble like with lateral movement as well because of that and because of his frame, but certainly like has some strength like in the upper body. And I just think he's a young guy that San Antonio can work with, and it might be a guy that even goes higher than this. It seems like right now he's definitely in the lottery range, and would be somebody I think San Antonio might be interested in. It certainly seems like character is something in his favor as well. And
Pop knows how to develop guys.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a very good
yeah,
trainer.
and like has tools here to be a really intriguing like power forward.
Yeah.
As San Antonio progresses.
No, and again, like San Antonio, like once you get to this point of the draft too, it's like a lot of these teams is like you're coming into good situations where that pressure is not on you, like it is necessarily like on a 1 through 4-ish pick. It's like he's coming into San Antonio. LaMarcus is still going to be the dude for the most part. DeMar's obviously going to be that kind of also a go-to type guy. So you get to come in and learn a little bit and hopefully develop, and then maybe in like 2-3 years you start getting dependent on a lot more. Moving on from San Antonio, we go to number 12. We're coming with the Sacramento Kings. I don't know if this is going to be the year where their owner, Vivek Ranadive, finally goes with his strategy of playing 4-man basketball with one guy standing under the basket the entire time. I don't know if he wants to get like
I don't think that'll be the case.
Not this
Hey
year.
man, they finished 12th.
They finished 12. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Or yeah, like they were 12 and not like 5.
Yeah, and they've made some front office changes.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't think they've hired a new general manager, but they definitely
hired the old one.
Let
So
the guy go. Yeah.
that's a change. I mean, like.
And here, they can go a lot of different directions. I think they could use depth just about everywhere, probably besides big. I wouldn't think they would go for a big here, but Sacramento could definitely use quite a few things. But yeah, the guy I do have them going for is actually a big, but somebody that you could is a huge swing, and it may be too big of a swing for a new general manager to take. But
the owner's not risk adverse. I mean, he doesn't mind rolling the dice.
Yeah, it hasn't always worked out.
Oh, totally not. But he doesn't. It's his money. It's his team.
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to sell it. Who knows? But the guy that I have them taking right now is Alexei Pokusevski. Played with Olympiacos, from Serbia. Just a super intriguing, likely 4-man. If he bulks up, can play the 5. But man, there's just so much talent there. And when you watch some of the tape, his ability to potentially shoot off movement, which he does pretty consistently. He has ball skills. He moves really, really well. I think at this point, even might be a legit 7 feet without shoes.
Yeah, they're those the listing I just saw. It says 7 foot 205. So
yeah, that's a big thing, and people
hitting the weight room
wonder how soon he can play, and he hasn't necessarily put everything together to have it be the most efficient yet. But if you look at his statistics in the Greek A2 league versus Giannis's, obviously some different physical tools going on there, yeah. But impressive nonetheless. And if you're the Sacramento Kings, you missed out on Luka Doncic. Is the guy you take at 12 going to put you over the top and make the playoffs? I'm guessing not.
No. Yeah.
Maybe they just take a big swing here. And I have a feeling that Pokusevski is going to be more and more appealing near the top of the draft, as we move closer to it. And I could see him going lottery. I could see him getting traded maybe to somebody that needs or that has the ability to wait on somebody and kind of develop them. But yeah, he's just somebody who I thought would be a fun pick here for Sacramento, and then maybe somebody who Sacramento could really make the other teams pay for moving forward.
No, totally. I think you got Buddy Hield. He's a good shooter.
Yeah.
Obviously, De'Aaron Fox is your point guard. I mean, he's leading your team. He's the guy.
You have Bogdanovich.
Yeah, he put up
signed to a new contract.
He put up some good games. I think they're in a good place where they can take the swing.
Yeah. And then you hope Marvin eventually is able to play a little bit as well. And like, okay, obviously Luka Doncic should have gone above Marvin Bagley. I had him above Marvin Bagley, but Marvin still, he's what they have. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like he's a bad player. He just had extraordinarily poor luck this year. And like, you can just hope the best for his future. Still like a fantastic athlete. And like, so yeah, was Marvin Bagley the right pick? Obviously not. No. But
nothing you can do
can
about
Marvin Bagley still be an effective player for your team? Yes. And like, he should be given the opportunity to at least be able to show that. Let's hope. I'm really hoping we get a healthy Marvin Bagley. But yeah, let's in the meantime hope that Luka has a really nice Game 6 versus the Clippers.
we are all hoping for that.
Because what he has done in his second year is unprecedented in the modern era.
No, generational type talent. I mean, like everything you hear with Luka,
certainly looking that way.
it's like everything you hear with him. It's like it's the youngest to do every. It's like he LeBron. He's either passing them or like tied to. It's like all these things with like guys that are at that level. I mean, he's definitely there. Moving on to a team that might have someone that could be at the very, very high level. Hopefully, starting the season off, active, able to play. New Orleans Pelicans with Zion coming back for his first full season, full season. He's got some time between now and whenever they think the new season's going to start, if that's going to be, 2020, 2021, if it starts in December or they wait till, January of 2021. But either way, he's got some time and you have some interesting pieces on this team too. I mean, Brandon Ingram made the All-Star team, right?
Yeah. He did.
Because he's one of those guys where it's like I always think I'm like he could, but I'm like, do I want him there? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you have Lonzo Ball, you still have Drew Holiday, who's on 10 years deep in the league, but still a productive player.
The guy that I have them taking is someone who I think, again, like probably has moved up quite a bit and is likely going to be taken in the lottery. Just crazy fast with the ball. He was impressive as a freshman, and he wasn't even eligible to be drafted last year because he had graduated high school or finished high school early and was able to go to college early. And then I felt a very positive step forward this year. And shot quite well. And really fast with the ball, has some upside as a decision maker, and then can give your team advantages and just create some chaos against defenses. And the guy I have is Kyra Lewis Jr. out of Alabama. I just think he's a talented point guard. Might be somebody that they're interested in. Like, the team's going to want to run. And, like, they're going to be fantastic in transition. And Kyra could do some really exciting things next to Zion Williamson, play next to Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, like play next to any of those guys. Yeah, and then maybe even have like some 3 guard sets and make that interesting. Have like Ingram and Zion with that, and have Zion at the 5. Like, you get some really, really interesting lineup there.
So I think they're like, it's all about just really building this team around Zion and what he can do. And I think guards, people that can get out and run. You compare, combine that with like Ingram, who can, also shoot it as well. Pretty good clip. That's a team that obviously the NBA was hoping to get into the playoffs this year, with the whole bubble to have, maybe a Zion LeBron first round matchup. But obviously NBA is not as rigged as everyone thinks it is, because that's not how it worked out. But this is a team that, that's looking pretty promising for the future, because obviously
very, very much so.
They have a franchise guy, and they've had a lot of pretty high picks that show some flashes.
For sure. And like another guy who I didn't even mention, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, is somebody I think has a lot of upside there to be a contributor. A guy who could come in and, compete for a roster spot, who's playing in Australia for the Sydney Kings in Next Stars program, Didi Lozada Silva. And he was somebody who you saw some great instincts from on both sides of the floor at the Nike Hoop Summit and throughout like his pro play. So yeah, they have a lot of young guys that they could possibly trade.
Well,
Even like
Jackson Hayes provides
exactly.
an energy boost for them off the bench.
I wouldn't write him off yet. Like he had a fine rookie year. You just kind of wonder how like he's going to look moving forward and how he's going to play next to Zion. But yeah, don't write Jackson Hayes off yet.
No, still.
And then they still have a really good player at the 5 in Derek Favors too.
Yeah. And because Jahlil Okafor is on the way out. I mean, he had that audition game, that last game in the bubble, and he, did some things he needed to do to hopefully get his next roster spot. So yeah, definitely things looking good in New Orleans. Because again, centered around Zion. That's what it's all about.
Center around the star.
And then with the number 14 pick, we moved back to the East, but it should have been the West because it was Memphis's pick. Obviously goes to Boston. They're getting that 14th pick. And it's so funny because the Boston Celtics are this team that they've been good for a good amount of years, and they've also still managed to accumulate pretty good high picks, through some trades and through some things. So they're looking good. I mean, they basically just dismantled Philadelphia in a sweep, basically causing that franchise to really like look at itself from within, firing Brett Brown, kind of rethinking like what's their future dynamic, is it going to be, Joel, Ben Simmons? Did we waste money on Al Horford? There's a lot of like introspection happening in Philadelphia, and that's all caused by a Boston pummeling. So what are they going to do with this 14th pick to really, just add someone else to this team that's got Jason Tatum, who's super young and budding, player?
Yeah, well, I think Boston's had like some issues with size this year, and Daniel Tice has been a nice center, and undoubtedly, I think they like the fact that these small lineups have seemed to do quite well, with Jason Tatum taking that next step forward. Jaylen Brown, I felt showed quite a bit of improvement, and then Kemba Walker was like pretty much his old self.
Oh, you know what you're getting. Yeah, you know what you're getting there.
Exactly. And then you have a guy like Marcus Smart. At this pick, like last year, it seemed like Danny was just trying to add some valuable role pieces. He's looking for a good head on his shoulders. He's looking for talent. He's looking for strong defenders and just strength in general. And the guy who I think is looking like a Celtics guy is Tyrese Maxey out of Kentucky. I think Tyrese is a guy that could be the Celtics guy. Kind of a combo guard. You most like him as a scoring guard and not as your guy bringing the ball up the floor. But then if you're playing next to Kemba Walker, or you're playing next to a guy like Jason Tatum, or like spelling Marcus Smart, like I think that works. And Tyrese didn't necessarily shoot out of this world this year, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and shot like in the 80s as far as free throw percentage. I think that he has potential to stretch that range and to be quite a bit better moving forward. Always was a talented scorer.
Boston's looking for guys that they got the guys that are going to shoot the ball. Like they got Tatum, they got Kemba Walker.
Yeah. Really good defender. Like
come in and play some defense, and just let them do. So it's
good defender. I think is going to add strength as well. So not like ideal size for a 2, but I don't think crazy small either. Fantastic body control as far as like floaters and attacking the basket and finishing. I don't know if you remember this, Jace, but he was the first player that we saw in the first game at EYBL Los Angeles in 2017.
Oh. You know, after like
and like was the best player on the floor there too.
I super like honestly after like 14-hour days of watching games, like they like
the first one, dude.
The only player that stood out to me at this point is like Bull because he's like you can't forget watching him play in a game.
Oh, I think you remember Marvin too,
and Jalen, the other guy I loved was Jalen LeCue, who's on Phoenix.
LeCue.
He didn't go to college. He's like this
crazy athlete,
crazy like Russell Westbrook type burst. He's not as big and like buff as Russell, but like just
like the shooting is even more.
Yeah, like NBA stuff.
Bad.
But it just is his bounce like John Wall type, like just getting from 0 to 60 and getting up and above you was super.
Yeah.
But that's so.
But yeah, Tyrese Maxey, like as far as being good and having those other contributing factors, he's always been a pretty like solid. He's not like a crazy creative decision maker, but he's always just been good, like low turnover guy. I think very solid, and I have him higher on my draft board, but he seems to be somebody that is very polarizing, and draft Twitter guys kind of love him, and the more mainstream sites have him going all over the place and a little bit later. Could slip out of the lottery altogether. But the other thing you wonder is if the Celtics keep this pick, or
because the Celtics are still later in the draft too.
Or they want to get future assets. Like Danny Ainge is also about asset collection.
Oh no, Danny Ainge definitely plays the long game, and
they have 3 first-round picks. So like you're assuming they trade at least 1 or 2.
They picked 32. Yeah, so they have
14, 26, and 30.
26, 30. Yeah, Danny Ainge is doing something. He's not leaving with 3 first-round picks.
Yeah. No, he did last year. Did he? No. So he had Romeo, and he had Grant. They had a lot of – no, I don't think they had 3 first-round picks, but then they had Carson Edwards and Tremont Waters. There were a lot of rookies there.
So they had Romeo Langford.
Yeah.
Grant Williams.
Yeah.
So that was it for first round.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wonder if did they trade one?
Oh, Carson Edwards was second round.
Yeah, and Carson was second, and so was Tremont. But yeah, they had a lot of picks, and they kept a lot of picks last year.
Yeah, he's been a good GM. I mean, he's been there.
Yeah.
13. Yeah. Like he come in before they got that.
He made good picks with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Oh, totally. Like,
Jason Tatum, as we said, looks like the best player in that draft. And Jaylen Brown, I think, even if you did a redraft, you may take Pascal Siakam over him, but like he's still a really effective player, and he's had a great season this year.
And again, as they say at a lot of things, it's just an honor to be nominated.
Doing well in the bubble too, like really well.
Well, a lot of people are. I mean, these
games able to play defense, like
these games are like insane. But yeah, I think Boston's a team that could put up the points and also like defend you on the other end.
Yeah, and you just wonder if they are looking for like a big, and maybe they think they can get that later on in the first round. Another thing is if the thing that's been floated by is if Alexei Pokusevski hadn't been taken in our mock, is a guy that they could look at as a draft and stash guy, or maybe even like sign and have play in Maine and see if he could provide you some minutes moving forward. Just because he looks like he could potentially be, if that body fills out, he's, and even if it doesn't, like there's a lot to like about him and his ability on both ends of the floor. Just don't see too many 7-footers that are able to handle the ball and pass and have the defensive instincts that he does.
But hey, now we see that a lot more than we used to. It's crazy how much some things have changed. But no, it's still always like an exciting thing to see because it combines the best of both of what you want. You know, everyone wants a 7-footer. That's just like the benchmark thing, you know, that's been invented in the NBA, yeah, like if you're over 7 foot, that's like super, super exciting. But now you have to be able to handle and shoot. It's like it's just crazy they can, do both. Like you look at like Porzingis, like it's crazy. But that was our Viseland mock draft 1.0.
Yeah, let me do the rundown, just so we know who was picked everywhere.
And we'll also have it in the description as well. So if you
absolutely. The rundown is, so this is who we feel NBA teams are going to take. The first Viseland mock draft, we have number 1, Anthony Edwards to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 2, LaMelo Ball to the Golden State Warriors. Number 3, James Wiseman to the Charlotte Hornets. By the way, we feel like the Warriors are going to trade LaMelo. We're just not exactly sure where. Number 4, Denny Avdija to the Chicago Bulls. Number 5, Obi Toppin to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 6, Isaac Okoro to the Atlanta Hawks. Number 7, Killian Hayes to the Detroit Pistons. Number 8, Devin Vassell to the New York Knicks. Number 9, Onyeka Okongwu to the Washington Wizards. Number 10, Tyrese Haliburton to the Phoenix Suns. Number 11, Patrick Williams to the San Antonio Spurs. Number 12, Alexei Pokusevski to the Sacramento Kings. Number 13, Kyra Lewis Jr. to the New Orleans Pelicans. And number 14, Tyrese Maxey to the Boston Celtics. Yeah.
Just a lot of, again, there's now until whenever the draft is going to start, because as of
and you're going to hear more of our draft takes moving forward.
Yeah. As of this recording date, there's still not a draft date set yet, but we have an order. So that's a good first start. And then other than that, I would say everybody keep up on the playoffs. The playoffs have been super exciting. We're seeing, again, Luka's having some performances. Donovan Mitchell's getting those 50-point games. But the guy I want to shout out is friend of the program, Jamal Murray.
Big time.
Tonight, August 25th, 2020, he had one of the coolest moves. Well, flurry, but just that play where he splits the double, comes in with the spin, and then puts it up like.
Yeah.
I had to rewatch that like 50 times.
33 second half points. He went all Anthony Edwards against Michigan State, and except this is against the Utah Jazz and fighting for his playoff life. So, yeah.
Stakes are pretty high, and I mean Denver still has to go.
Very high.
Denver still has to go in 2 in a row, but I mean, loving what we're seeing out of him because it's just
that guard battle between he and Donovan Mitchell, which Donovan Mitchell has been out of this world so far.
Oh, totally. I think it's like Michael Jordan, I think someone else, like with the 2 50-point games in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then just like before this game was averaging 39.5 points per game, 56% from the field, 52% from 3, and like I think 92% from the line.
Super focused. Super.
And then Luka with one of the most legendary games, like coming off a sprained ankle,
second longest,
making a walk-off game winner against the
second longest game winner in the playoffs behind Damian Lillard last year. Amazing. From the logo. No, I think
youngest player ever to make a walk-off game winner in the playoffs too.
And I think he's the only player, the youngest player to do the 40-point triple-double.
Yeah.
The playoffs. I don't think Magic ever did. Like
crazy.
So we're seeing some pretty all-time things. We're seeing, LeBron last night for the Lakers. I mean, he goes and he hits that shot from the logo as well. And he was just kind
last 2 games he's been pretty dialed in.
Yeah, and he, and sometimes he plays like, you could see more from him too, but he's like 80% is still like 140% for somebody else. Like he's at an unreal level. So we definitely encourage.
And then congrats to Giannis for winning Defensive Player of the Year, by the way, and also likely winning the MVP, which is something that very few players have done before.
No, he's great. And then Nick Nurse getting Coach of the Year. I think it was super cool. They actually brought on his high school coach to present the award to him.
Yeah,
so you get a chance to watch
that.
That's super cool. Because again, like Nick, he's in this position where it's like they lost Kawhi Leonard for nothing, and they're still in this place where it's like, oh, they can make the finals. Like they're a championship type team.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, they've been playing some great basketball.
Yeah, like with losing.
That Celtics series is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's going to be I think that's going to be like one of the first ones in the bubble where it's like we're actually going to see very intense, a little slow, like we're not going to see like the 140-point games that we're kind of seeing right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a very scrappy battle between those teams. But yeah, I'm happy the game's back. It's been a lot of fun watching it, but this is our first, again, 1.0, a lot of time between now and the draft. But if you got any kind of draft takes or people you're high on, like, we'd love to hear, like, even sleepers, like who's like a second round guy that you are digging, thinking, has that potential. Let us know in the comments, or you could always shoot us an email, viselandpod@gmail.com, or follow us on Twitter @Viseland, and just let us know, like, what are your thoughts on this draft? Are you excited for it? Are you just like, let's get it over with? And who are you feeling? We love all that feedback. And if you could rate us, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We appreciate all the love and support. Mikey, anything to lead us out on?
Yeah, and just, tell me which one of our picks sucked. If you guys feel like you have any insights into what, your team's general managers are thinking, definitely leave us a comment and tell us, which ones we got wrong or which we could do better the next time, since there will almost undoubtedly be a next time. I am NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. I was just on a couple of podcasts, as I said, the Hoop Spy podcast, and then Jason and I were on the Draft Junkies and Lakers Fast Break mock draft. We did what I called the Minion mock, which was a mock with 10 people, which is a minion in the Jewish faith. So we had one of those.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of great guys with good
Went
perspective.
faster than I thought. That's the other thing. Like, went a lot quicker than I thought it would.
But yeah, get to my NBA draft.
As soon as we did it. As soon as we did the mock. Yeah. It took a while leading up to it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so I'm NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. He's @JVisenberg on Twitter. Thank you so much for coming by, and we look forward to having some more basketball content for you next week.
Later.